My name is Sarah Andrews, and I am the Director of Government and Media Relations for Friends of Canadian Media. And we're very happy to partner with Real Canada for the presentation of the special screening for National Canadian Film Day. And we're even more thrilled to present this special conversation with international multi-platinum recording artist, a member of the Order of Canada, a former honorary colonel of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and founder of grassroots advocacy group Wise Communities, Loreena McKennitt. Thank you so much for being with me to talk today, Loreena.
Well, it's great to be with you.
And it's great to be able to talk to you on the occasion of National Canadian Film Day. I'm sure as many people know, this is an important annual event that celebrates our cultural identity and our cultural sovereignty. And this year, with the federal election and obviously the threats coming from US President Donald Trump, it seems even more important to highlight this occasion and this day. So this year, we presented a special documentary, an NFB documentary called Family, A Loving Look at CBC Radio. And this documentary really highlights the important role that the CBC plays in our lives. And it's certainly something that we have been hearing from Canadians across the country throughout this election campaign. So I wanted to talk to you, Loreena. How has the CBC been an important institution to you in your life?
Well, it really began as a child. I was of a generation, I'm born in the late 1950s. And the CBC was a very robust institution in many ways. When I think of growing up as a child, the CBC was just on the radio all the time. In the evening, we might turn on the television and watch certain things. But I think of other aspects with respect to my father. Coming from a rural community, town of Morden, Manitoba. My father was a livestock dealer, as was his father. My grandparents lived on a farm, and my mother was a nurse. And it was in some ways a pretty average kind of household. But when I think of even the connection of the CBC with respect to my father and my grandfather, they would often, sit together at lunchtime. They would be in there on the dot of 12 to be sure to get the cattle report or the weather report that would inform when harvesting or planting would be done. So it became a very vital line of information for them and companionship. My mother had in some ways, a wider appetite for all the various things that were being offered in the CBC. So as children, we were exposed to that vicariously, my brother and I. We'd be growing up with This Country in the Morning that then became Morningside and so on. And all the cultural expressions that came with that. So yes, it was really an integral part of the fabric of our everyday life. And when I look back on it now, it very much started this lifelong connection with other parts of the country and other people, sometimes family who lived in other parts of the country, and all the riches and the issues and things that we can share and continue to share on the CBC.
I can certainly, relate to that. The CBC being such an important part of a childhood. I can remember myself growing up with CBC childhood shows, and I think it probably resonates with a lot of people listening here as well. That sort of foundational role that the CBC played growing up. But obviously, you're an artist as well. So I wanted to see or hear from you. How has the CBC been played an important role in your career as an artist?
Well, beginning from the tail end of my childhood, I remember on Sunday nights we'd be glued to the CBC watching Don Messer's Jubilee, and performances of Catherine McKinnon and so on. And it would be when my career got started more in Ontario. I moved to Ontario in 1981, and particularly in 1985, I made my first recording that I started getting plugged into opportunities that the CBC was offering. There were some as well in Winnipeg. I was often invited to come and perform at the radio noon program live or the drive home program. But when I came to Ontario and I had started my recording career, Some of that music, I think, particularly made its way onto the Max Ferguson show. I think Max's show was so instrumental in exposing my kind of eclectic Celtic music, a kind of genre that certainly wasn't foremost of most of the commercial radio stations or even the record companies for that matter. And through the word of mouth within the CBC department, the music became known to other shows, and they would be playing my music on Morningside or on various other programs. So, from a career standpoint, I would be invited to come in and perform live, again, radio, drive home programs, Morningside, as well as being interviewed. So that whole spectrum of exposure was just so fundamental. In fact, I would say my career could not have started, would not have got out of the starting gate had it not been for that spectrum of opportunities that were offered to me through CBC radio and television. In 1978, I was part of a national search for talent competition. It was the CBC Du Maurier Search for Talent, and I was one of 5 winners that was profiled on those programs. So these were all really important building bricks for my career and other artists like myself. So when I reflect now, after years of cutbacks, I mean, of course, when I first came to Toronto, there was the studio on Church Street, there was the building on Jarvis Street, and it was before the big building on Front Street. But even when we went to the building on Front Street, most of those floors were occupied by the CBC, and I think 1 or 2, maybe below, were leased out to somebody else. In recent years, of course, with all the cutbacks, a lot of that ecosystem is gone. And I think for me, the icing on the cake was watching the robot run around delivering the mail. But I remember the ecosystem, and I think this film, that this family of the CBC, Don Britton's, that you were speaking about earlier, really is a wonderful expose of that amazingly rich fabric of people and exercises and disciplines, that journalists trained a long time to be journalists, that there are accountability mechanisms. But I also remember when I was performing at the Stratford Festival, HMS Pinafore in 1981, well, the CBC was there taping it, and we went into Toronto to tape it. So it was really, really vital to not only my career advancement, but others as well.
So I think it's really interesting that you speak about that. This is obviously something that we talk a lot about with Canadians across the country, is sort of that important role that the CBC plays as a national public broadcaster in giving stories a chance that wouldn't necessarily get a chance, giving artists, that start in their careers. And as there are people in the country, there are not many, but there's still that voice there of people who want to defund the CBC, who want to, get rid of it, who don't believe it has a value. Mm-hmm. What do we stand to lose in your mind if we were to lose the CBC as that, foundational role as the national public broadcaster plays?
Well, I think there are many things. I personally divide it into 2 camps. There is the information and the world analysis side, which relies heavily upon a certain kind of discipline that involves researchers, fact checkers, properly trained journalists, etc. The other domain, of course, is that of maybe arts and culture and entertainment, and a different set of skill sets, very important ones. And so from let's say an arts and cultural side, which connects to my own personal career, we're I guess in my lifetime, I've already seen such an evisceration of it already. I feel we're just hanging on to the remnants. That if we lose these remnants, rather than building them up, not just even from a point of view of informing each other and telling stories. But I would say in my particular case, there's even a strong business case argument, because my career, I've gone on to sell 15 million records. I have had a staff and employed people. I have a whole ecosystem that I've employed and spun that money back into the community, whether it's recording engineers or musicians, all kinds of ways. And that duplicates itself. But when we think about the subsidizing and supporting of other industries, that sometimes need extra support. The arts and culture is certainly one of them, and I believe the public broadcaster has, and I think should continue to be a major vehicle for that exposure that then can go on and build those dividends that have built as in my own career. Because again, without the Max Ferguson show or Morning Side of those programs, I wouldn't be sitting here speaking to you. So I think on that side of the ledger, we stand to lose a lot, those who come from an arts, culture, and entertainment background. Secondly, equally importantly, if not more so, is the role that the public broadcaster serves in terms of an instrument of our democratic survival. And, as we've seen an invasion in the past 25 years of unregulated technology companies, social media companies, rich with influencers who are not necessarily trained as a journalist. They don't have a bank of researchers and fact checkers and wrestling with the ethics of things and making sure things are balanced and that it is serving the common good in the country. And again, when I go back to my earliest days in Morden, Manitoba, and listening to those farm reports, it was really important to my father as a livestock dealer that he got that accurate and timely information every day, and ditto many other businesses and industries along the way. And I think that it is so unfortunate that the CBC, along with other media outlets, have not played in or the social media companies and tech companies have not worked in an equal playing field because the others have been unregulated. And most people don't understand that business model. So I think the erosion, either from the force of the predatory tech companies, who we know now are lined up with the American president, who are challenging our sovereignty, when I connect all these dots, for me personally as a citizen who cherishes my democracy here and the quality of our democracy still here in Canada and our sovereignty, I see the CBC being absolutely integral to that. And it would be, and so the reason why I sort out the arts and entertainment, shall we say, from the information and the veracity of that information that feeds into the support of our democracy, I feel that is so, if we do not have that building block, we do not have that element, I think we have lost a vital part of our democracy.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. And these are all issues that Friends of Canadian Media do advocates on. With our supporters to stand up to the big tech that is eroding our cultural sovereignty, that is encroaching on the work that Canadian media does in both news and journalism, in Canadian storytelling. It's so important that we have those guardrails up to ensure that we protect those institutions. And as you know, we're in a federal election. Why is it important for you to speak up about the importance of the CBC in the current climate? What's the extra importance at this time?
But I think what this moment, this very consequential election, where we have been very much alarmed and awakened to the threat of our sovereignty and our democracy. And if we start connecting those dots, we see that there are some parties that are more supportive of the public broadcaster than others. And I think it calls upon citizens to try to appreciate the central role that the public broadcaster plays and makes the decisions based on who's going to not only support, but I would say rebuild. And maybe there are aspects of it need to be reconfigured, no problem. But I still think that the principles of facts and truth based on robust research count for a lot in this world. But I do think that that line of thinking is under threat. So I do feel this election, particularly citizens of Canada, have the opportunity to make informed choices as it pertains to the support of the CBC.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with you on that. And you know, we have spoken about the importance of renewing the CBC and providing it with the funds that it needs to be able to continue to play that pivotal role as we go into the future. And we're looking to the political parties to ensure that they present that offer to Canadians about how we can make the CBC better and play that important role. So I wanted to ask you, there are people watching this across the country. What message would you like to leave them with as we finish this conversation?
Well, I guess I feel that democracy does not thrive as a spectator sport. And we should never sit these things out. When we think of people who fought and died for the privilege of our democratic system, however imperfect it is, we owe it to them, if not ourselves and our future generations, to really be informed and to really think about the choices we make, because these choices have a lot of long-term consequences. And this is not the time to sit it out, because as I say, I strongly believe that our democracy does not thrive as a spectator sport.
Absolutely agree with you on that. And I see you're wearing your Vote to Save the CBC pin, proudly displaying your support for the CBC. So if anyone has questions about the parties who are supporting the CBC in the current election, we have a fundthecbc.ca website that people can go to and find out how they can also vote to support the CBC in the current federal election that's ongoing. Loreena, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you.